Poco Studios in Oklahoma City. You're watching The Press Row. I'm Jenni Carlson here with Barry Trammell. It's time for We Pick 'em. And Barry, it's the return of college football games.
Yeah.
All right, time to go, and let's get to it. Let's start with a big game involving a Big 12 and an SEC team. It's TCU versus LSU. They're playing down at Jerry World. Who you got in this one, Barry?
Well, I've got LSU, but man, I'm pulling for TCU, pulling for Gary Patterson's squad. You know, Devontae Fields not going to play, the great defensive end for the Frogs. That really puts TCU in a bind. I'd like to see this game played with all the Frogs available, but I think it'll be a good game. I think it'll be an old-fashioned game. It's not going to be one of these 41-38 games we've come to know and despise. It's going to be an old-fashioned 17-14, 20-14 type game. I think LSU gets them, though. I actually think Les Miles has an underrated team. I'd watch out for LSU. They could make a run.
All the Frogs available. For some reason, that's just funny to me. I'm taking TCU in this one, even though they are going in without Devontae Fields, who is fantastic. But Gary Patterson, always strong defensively. One of the reasons that, you know, they're a team that a lot of people could see winning the Big 12 this year. I do think LSU is a team that could contend, could really push some teams in the SEC. But TCU, I like what they've got. They've got Casey Pahal back at quarterback. I think he's going to be out to play really well. I like TCU in the upset. I think it could set a great stage for the Big 12 against that SEC. All right, what about this one, Barry? Georgia goes to Clemson. Who you got winning this one?
What a great opener, and this is a quarterback battle royale with Georgia's Aaron Murray, Clemson's Taj Boyd.
They could both be at the Heisman come December.
I'm going with the home squad. I'm taking Clemson. It's going to be a fabulous game. I think Georgia's big time. You know, Georgia, look how close Georgia came to knocking off Alabama in the SEC title game last year. But I like Clemson at home. It's a tough place to play. I don't know that Clemson's got the greatest coach in the world in Dabo Swinney, but I will say this. Those guys end up playing pretty well for him. So I think both Georgia and Clemson have tough schedules. I don't think either one of them can get to the big bowl, but I think Clemson takes the bigger step on Saturday.
I'm going to go with Georgia in this one. And I said early in the season, I thought Clemson was maybe a little underrated in some of the polls out there, but Georgia, they're 5 yards from going to the national championship game last year. They could be the defending national champions from the SEC instead of Alabama. That's how close they came to not only beating Alabama, but potentially being a national champion. So I love Georgia in this game, but I think this is going to be a fun game. I mean, you're right. What a great opener. It's going to have all the traditions of the South down there at Clemson. It's going to be a fantastic one to watch. All right, Barry, what about this one? Alabama opening up their title defense against Virginia Tech. Going to do it at the Georgia Dome. Who you got in this one?
Well, I've got Alabama. You know, here's the deal. Here's the deal.
You say that with the utmost contempt.
Here's the deal. I've got a long and proud record of picking Virginia Tech to do great things in the preseason, and they always let me down. I like Frank Beamer. I like the wonderful job he's done building a program, you know, virtually from nothing. But I think Virginia Tech's on the downslope. I think their glory days are behind them, at least in the next few years. I don't think they're going to match up well with Alabama. I expect the tide to roll.
The thing I like most about Virginia Tech right now, their uniforms. Got good uniforms. I don't like that to win the day against Alabama. I think that's going to be difficult for them. Yeah, Alabama wins. I mean, all these guys that they've got returning, you know, most of their defensive guys are back. They've got quarterback, running back. I mean, that team that won a year ago is largely the team that's going to start this year against Virginia Tech. No reason to think Alabama doesn't win pretty easily in their opener. All right, Barry, what about the two local squads opening up on Saturday? Louisiana-Monroe goes to OU, the start of the Trevor Knight era. Who you ut in this one?
I got the Sooners, and they ought to win big. The truth of the matter is Louisiana-Monroe's got a big-time offense, run around, spread it out, really put pressure on you. But that Louisiana-Monroe defense is very susceptible, especially to the big play. They do a lot of gambles, a lot of risks. It's going to be interesting to see how Trevor Knight handles so many new looks and things. But the Sooners ought to unload a ton of big plays on the Warhawks. I picked the Sooners big.
I've got the Sooners winning as well. I don't have them winning maybe as big as you do, Barry, but I still think they win. And in large part, I don't have them winning because I just don't think they're going to offensively go crazy maybe. Maybe in what they do, which I think will be fairly vanilla, if you will. Maybe they do get a bunch of big plays and it happens out of that. I don't know. But I think they're going to go pretty conservative. I think they're going to let Trevor Knight sort of ease into the position, if you will. Bob Stoops sort of voted against that philosophy earlier this week. But I think there are some things you can do to help a young guy get going, hand the ball off, maybe throw some short passes, do some things like that. So I think they're going to help him along. They win, but I think it's maybe in the 3-touchdown range. All right, lastly, Barry, the big game, OSU versus Mississippi State down at Reliant Stadium in Houston. Who you got?
Well, I got OSU. I think it'll be an interesting game. I think it'll be a competitive game. It'll be a good game. But I think in the end, the Cowboys get them mostly because of tempo. I don't know that Mississippi State's going to be ready for that every 10, 15-second snap that Mike Yurcich wants to play with the Cowboys. I think eventually that's going to wear down Mississippi State. Oklahoma State's defense, I think, is pretty solid. I don't think they're going to give up a bunch of points, a bunch of yards. I would expect OSU to have a nice, solid victory, 10, 14 points.
Yeah, I got OSU in this one as well, and I think they're a better team all the way around. I mean, I think Mississippi State, may have an advantage here or there, position, battle, but for the most part, I don't see OSU being an underdog in any regard in this game. I think that this is a game that they win. Now, who trots out there for the first few snaps at quarterback, I have no idea. I think J.W. Walsh may, just so Mike Gundy can kind of knock it to us all for saying Clint Shelf was going to be the guy. But regardless of who's out there, they're going to score points. I mean, Mississippi State may have a decent defense, but there's no way they can slow down that OSU offense all afternoon. And be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.